Welcome back to Beyond Chronic Burnout, the podcast where we explore the strategies and tools to help leaders and individuals overcome burnout and find genuine fulfillment. We go beyond surface solutions, digging deep into what it means to live a life of purpose, harmony, and true well-being. In today's episode, we're joined by the incredible Cortney McDermott, a best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and former executive turned human potential enthusiast. With a master's from the London School of Economics and a career spanning roles at Vanity Fair Corporation, Universal Music Group, and Google, Cortney knows a thing or two about the external trappings of success. But as she'll share with us, even with all the accolades, she found herself miserably successful, yearning for something deeper. Cortney will take us through her transformative journey of shifting from chasing societal definitions of success to finding internal fulfillment. She'll share her eye-opening insights on how consumer culture traps us in a loop of not enough, and practical techniques for connecting with our true sense of worth and peace. From mindful leadership to simple relaxation techniques, Cortney's wisdom will guide you to rethink what success really means and help you connect with the light within. So if you're ready to step off that hamster wheel, quit those little buggers from lighting up and firing up and all of the steam and the smoke flying out the back, and that constant striving for achievement and gold stars, and start finding fulfillment from within, let's dive into this powerful conversation with my dear friend and returning guest, Cort McDermott.
Step out of the shadows, feel the power rise, catch the spark inside you, let your spirit fly. Beyond the chronic burnout, Carole Jean's your guide. Find your steady rhythm, nice joy on the tide. Flourish forward, bright and bold. Leave the burnout far behind. In this journey, hearts unfold. Power's yours, seek and find.
I am so excited to have you back on the show, Cortney McDermott. This is amazing. Last time you were here, we did talk about your phenomenal book, Give Yourself Permission. But as we move into November and we are talking all things career, I think one of the most beautiful things is that you have this gorgeous book called Change Starts Within You. And it really is helping so many people rethink success, because I think it's that internalization of this is what success looks like, or this is what it's supposed to be. And these are all the milestones I have to hit in order to be successful. And that can be a really tough spot.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
Perfect word, exhausting in the burnout world.
Right? Exactly. We trap ourselves in exhaustion all the time.
Ooh, we trap ourselves in exhaustion. Do expand on that one.
Well, we're in a culture, right, that's basically saying you don't have enough, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not thin enough, you're not whatever enough, you're just not enough, right? And it's been saying that to us for many, many years now. So we're sort of just indoctrinated into this idea that if we can just, that success is perennially around the corner. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Outside
it's like,
of us, it's ahead of us.
it's the milepost that you got to hit. And once you hit it, everything's going to be okay. But then the milepost changes. And that was the impetus for this first book. Was I had gotten to all the places. I had all the gold stars. I, had the awards and the titles and the positions. And I was, I was a wife and a mother and a marathon runner. And it was all the things, right? And I start that book and the TEDx talk for that book saying, I'm sitting on the private jet, I'm sipping the espresso, and I'm just miserably successful.
I get the tingles every time you say miserably successful. It's so relatable.
Right? Right? Because it's just chasing. I call it chasing gold stars. And you're just chasing these gold stars. But when you actually stop and realize, holy smokes, the gold stars are in me. They light me up from inside. And from that place, all of these things come to me. It's a very different approach to life and to what we call work, because you're just, as Anne Lamott put it so beautifully in her book, Bird by Bird, she said, lighthouses don't go all over the island looking for people to save. Lighthouses just stand there shining. And the question then becomes, can I stand here shining? And the answer to that question, as outlined in the first book and also my second book, is yes. Not only can you, but you must, for your own sake and for the sake of the world, really. So, yeah.
Oh man, there's a release that I think happened for me when I realized that light was in me. It wasn't something I had to go chase and capture somehow. Court, what does being miserably successful feel like? So if somebody is kind of in that and that just resonated with them, maybe they're going, I don't know if I'm miserably successful. What is that? I mean, what was that for you?
Well, it's funny. With that first book, I was trying to shorten the learning curve in the sense that if you're not at that place that you consider successful, which a lot of people, when they pick up a book or when they go to some resource, most of the time now are looking for that magical success that we hear about everywhere. And again, like I said, that recipe for success is constantly changing to constantly keep you looking externally for your sense of fulfillment and joy and peace. At the end of the day, when you ask someone, what do you want? And it's quote unquote success related, people will say, oh, I want $1 million in the bank, or I want to be able to buy this house, or I want to have this kind of relationship. If you dig under that superficiality for just a few seconds, what you will realize is that, and when I say superficiality, I mean, that's the surface, right? So when you dig under the surface of that, you will always come to those same conclusions. What I believe the relationship provides is a sense of stability, for example, or peace or joy. What I believe the $1 million in the bank provides is a sense of stability or peace or joy. Now, when you come to that, kind of, it seems, oh, right, of course, but it actually is where we've missed the boat most of the time. So if you can sit in, okay, what does peace feel like? What does joy feel like? What does stability feel like inside of me? Because I can tap into those space-time realities right now, just sitting here. Okay. What do they feel like? The more you go into that wellspring that is in you, that never leaves you, that will never forsake you, that can't abandon you, once you start dipping into it, you're like, the feeling is, So instead of maybe answering the question, what miserably successful feels like, I think we need to look at the question of, what does that peace feel like? What does that joy feel like? What does that sense of expansion feel like? And anyone listening, even if it's just been glimpses, you know what that feels like. And you may have thought it was the result of something external to you, but in reality, it was that alchemical process that was taking place within you. And so again, all our greatest spiritual traditions have taught us this, and they've shown us this, but it's a little bit like that idea of, the finger pointing at the moon. If you take the finger for the moon, right, you've missed the mark. But the minute you start focusing your attention on that moon, that light, that shine within you, the sense is, I don't have to do anything. Yeah.
Cortney, I love how you're bringing in this internal experience and really, as we're rethinking success, not from this deficit of not feeling fulfilled, but we can have these glimmers of joy. We have this knowing of peace. As we unlayer sort of those superficial things you were talking about, how does worthiness play into this? Rethinking Success?
What I have seen over and over working with really that like highest levels of, it's crazy how we call ourselves performers, but anyway, performers, and we can dig into that if you want. But what I've seen is this crisis of confidence, this sense that whatever you do, it won't be enough. And I think once we just get with that, we get with the sensation of where is this coming from? Not from an analytical approach, more from a feeling, kind of like what's happening inside of me? Where does this come from? Again, I'm not trying to get an answer to that. I'm just noticing it. I'm just getting with it. And the more we start to do that, the more we will tap into that enoughness. It does take a little bit because we've been so hyper trained to go the other way. It's really interesting, actually, if you look at, especially in our culture, but it spread throughout the world, really. But in our culture in the US, so I can say that now as I'm back in the US, living in the US now after 25 years, this was very intentional. I think it was back in the 50s that there was a very intentional shift to what we call consumerism. And the idea was to get people to burn up and consume as much as possible, as fast as possible. And so everything was planned obsolescence or perceived obsolescence, and just getting you to want more and to think that whatever you had was never enough. What's really curious and pretty, I think, pretty obvious is around the same time that these policies, and they were intentional political economic policies in our government, and you can read them. I mean, you can actually read the government talking about it and using those precise words. What you'll notice is that the happiness index also started to decline around the exact same time. And so this sense that whatever you do, you're not enough. And we are bombarded by this message. And this is one of the reasons why I'm really keen on helping people ease off the drug of not enoughness, which is being fed by the media, which is being fed by organizations, which is being fed then by yourself, which is where it gets really tricky, because once you've taken over the reins of I'm not enough, then holy moly, I talk about that in my second book, how to start to overcome that. So yeah.
Oh, just when we have become the judge, essentially, and, so how do we go from that place of being capitulant and subjugated to this not enoughness, which is a lie? It's a fallacy, to being mindful leaders in our own life. This is something that I talk about. Getting out of burnout is stepping back into your personal power and being the leader in your own life. And I love that you call it mindful leadership. How do we become mindful leaders, Court?
That's funny, because I don't remember using that term specifically, but when you talk about mindful, and I think we hear this term thrown around quite a bit, there's a couple things that emerge immediately for me. One is, in Italian, they have this beautiful expression. They say la mente mente, which means the mind lies. And the word for mind and lie are the same in that language, and also in Spanish for that matter. And I find that beautiful up until a point, because it's kind of comical. A lot of times we can't stop the mind, right? We can't calm the mind. We can't redirect the mind. And you know that I could go on and on and on about the mind, because I love neuroscience, and I think we did a lot of that in the first interview. But here's the thing. Most of us are not consciously directing our thoughts, which anyway are just electrical impulses. So most of us are not consciously directing those electrical impulses. They're going on repeat. And unfortunately for most of us, they're repeating the not enough message in some form or another. It's asking the wrong questions, all those kinds of things. So there is a complete, there's a lot of potential work that one could do on directing the mind and directing the thoughts. And that's really powerful work. And I share a lot of that, again, especially in the second book. But there's something that I have found to be far more significant in changing the way life lives you. And that is really just dedicating yourself to life, to the intelligence that is guiding everything else, and really saying, take over. Instead of constantly like just this crazy sort of hamster, I got to get somewhere or whatever else, just sit down and really get with yourself, right? And really get with that intelligence. That intelligence is what is directing everything that is occurring in your body that you're not thinking about for a second. It's directing everything that's occurring outside of your body. And once you start to just relinquish more and more trust to that intelligence, call it what you may, you will start to experience significant shifts. For instance, I oftentimes feel like that intelligence is what's speaking through me. That intelligence is what is writing through me. And actually, if I'm not feeling that way, I time myself out. And I even do that real time. I will pause, or I'll say, I need a minute because I just went somewhere else. So let me just come back into that dance with the divine or with the intelligence that I'm talking about. Right. And I'm talking about the same intelligence that's beating your heart. It's funny too, because we don't say I beat my heart. Right. We don't say I do that, but we say I think. Again, I would challenge that. Unless you've actually learned how to direct your thought processes, you're likely not you're not consciously involved in that process. So learning that is really important. It's an arduous work. I know so few people that I've met who've actually endeavored to take that on. It's a real piece of work. But even if you just let that go, just forget about that for a second and just say, I want to dance with this intelligence. I want to see where it's going to take me. You will be astounded.
Oh, we have to let that sit a minute. To me, I was feeling this sense of leadership isn't about your control. It is about your surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And not to something outside of yourself, but within.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, we can just end it right there.
I'm with you. It's funny. I think a lot of people struggle with the term surrender because our society has made that kind of something that's like you put up the white flag and you just gave up. Surrender has nothing at all to do with that. It's trusting. And actually, I think in our first interview, we talked about this a lot because I love the word confidence. People say, I want to be more confident in whatever level you're dealing with. I mean, I'm talking Fortune 10 executives to everybody, right? And they will talk about this. And the thing is, confidence, it comes from confidere, with trust, with reliance. What you're doing is you're not saying, oh, I give up. You're saying, I trust. The same way I trust that the trillions of biochemical reactions occurring in my body every second are going to stay on track. I don't say, wait, let me create a 5-year plan for that. Or I have to muscle up and make sure that they're doing, you'd go out of your mind, right? And, I joke that we also don't go to bed at night thinking, is the sun going to come up in the morning? Is it not going to come up? Is it going to come up? Is it not going to come up? We are trusting that intelligence will continue to govern the path of the planets and the rotation of the planets and all of that, right? We're trusting that. And it's just so curious that we take this small, tiny bit that's left over and we say, I can't trust that. So the challenge, which is also a beautiful invitation more than a challenge probably, is how much can I relax into that trust totally with all of me? And that's what we're talking about when we say just dancing with that intelligence.
The number one biggest contributing factor to burnout, the biggest energy drain, is paired with internal emotional safety, and it's self-trust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you just spoke about a level of self-trust. I mean, yes, we can, our breath is both controlled and automated. I mean, we can control our breath, but when we go to sleep, I mean, we trust that we're going to continue to breathe and that we'll continue to respirate in our unconsciousness.
Mhm.
And I find it interesting. I'm wondering sort of what your take on this is. For me, I noticed that when there were places, even today, because new level, new devil kind of thing comes up, right? I'll be like, "Ooh, I don't trust that yet," or I don't know about that, right? Like, I won't say I don't trust something now. I'll be just like, I don't know. For a second, I kind of will bristle, and I was like, well, wait a minute. And then it's like, I feel my body get tight. I was like, no, I got to relax. Just breathe
Mm.
into this for a second, hold space and pause,
Mhm.
process, right? And sometimes I would catch, oh, that's the quick excuse so that I don't feel like I'm having to or obligated to something.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And it's like I can just say, "Oh, that's not a fit," or whatever, but it's when I really started to think about it, I was like, "What part internally am I not trusting in myself?"
Yeah. Yeah. It is so scary when you're freaking out to relax. It's like the scariest thing you can do. But I think as women, especially, and I speak to a lot of men too, but I think we innately understand that our relaxation response is the most powerful response we have.
We are the thermostat in our
We
household.
are. We are. And so so I just got truth bumps everywhere. When you sit in that for just a moment and you invite more of it in, I know it's scary. Trust me, girl, I know it is scary. I mean, there are times where I'm like, I can't go lay down. And that always rings back. Whenever I say I can't do, some sort of relaxation thing, I'm reminded of the Dalai Lama, who said something to the effect of, if you think you don't have 5 minutes to meditate for an hour.
Yeah.
And it's the funniest thing, so here's my promise: the more, and I don't make promises lightly, but the more you learn how to relax, the more everything comes to you. And there are two specific things that I do, just for anyone listening, because I feel like lots of times, I know that if I was hearing this 5 years ago, maybe even 3 years, or I don't even know, but not that long ago, I was been like, yeah, okay, whatever. I got to get on to the next thing. Let me get into another podcast here. Let me listen to somebody who actually is going to tell me what to do, right? Because I'm running around like, I got to do something. And the last thing I want to hear is stop doing. I gave a presentation for Mind Valley University, I think it was a couple of years ago, and it was how to change without doing anything. And I gave a similar presentation on Necker Island, which was about rethinking success. And the thing what's important for everyone to realize is, like, I am actually talking about something very tactical and strategical. It just doesn't sound like it. And it sounds so simple that you might discard it. But as Da Vinci put it, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So, yeah. So it's just, for me, what I do, as I said, there are two very specific, I do other things too, but two specific things that are the easiest, like gateway. Well, they're not they're super fast gateways. They're not the only ones, but a couple things that I suggest all the time is yawning, which is considered the best kept secret of neuroscience. And it both energizes you and relaxes you at the same time. Go for it. I love that you're going for it, girl. And the other thing is just laying down. And again, I know that sounds scary, but here's what happens. Both of those things, what they're doing is they're actually changing your brainwave frequencies. So the minute you yawn, you're actually sending a message to your vagus nerve, which is the largest nerve in your body, saying, I'm safe. So coming back to that point you made about internal safety, it says, I'm safe. If you yawn for 30 seconds, I'm not kidding, set a timer, yawn for 30 seconds, make this a habit. This will change your life. Yawning, when you've got that relaxation process prompt, you are connecting with other frequencies. The frequencies you're connecting with are the frequencies that will work through you. So you don't actually feel like you're doing anymore. Yawning also has a whole other host of benefits. I won't get into all of them right now, but you start to release some amazing neurochemicals in your body and your bloodstream. So oxytocin is one, and that is great, especially if you're yawning with other people. I highly suggest that if you have a partner that you're struggling with on any level, just sit down and yawn together. Make it a habit a couple times a day at first, and then you'll see it really changes things. And anyway, and then laying down has the same effect. And we know this, right? Because when we go to sleep at night, that's what's happening. We're moving. Most people are in beta most of the time. They're moving into alpha, into theta, into delta. And what happens is you start to have access to things you don't otherwise have access to. So it's very simple, it's very scientific, and it's very, very effective. So if you're listening again and thinking, well, I don't have time to just go lay down for a couple minutes, please, I urge you, lay down for more, much more, and you will start to see. And again, as women, I think we just intuitively know this. We are receivers. And then once we've received and we're full, holy moly, watch out.
Yes, watch out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so if you are listening today and this has spoken to you, if this has woken up something within you that feels so good, because I know it does. It feels so good to go, yes, this is making sense. This is speaking to me. Go get Court's 2 books. Go to CourtneyMcDermott.com. That's CourtneyMcDermott. I have all the links down in the show notes. Your 2 books are Give Yourself Permission and Change Starts Within You. As we wrap up this session for November's career series and our personal development, what is the one thing you want someone who is in that place of miserably successful today to take with them?
Oh, okay. I have one thing I want to say. And before I say it, I also want to mention that the short URL is Cort Inc. So CORTINC. And the reason I'm mentioning that is my name is without a U. And so anyone who's listening, if you look for Cortney with a U, you might not find me. And I really want you to find me, and I want us to connect. So thank you. And thank you, Carole Jean. What you're doing is amazing. The one thing I would leave everyone listening with is I was talking to my nephew 2 days ago, and he said to me, at the end of the day, everything makes sense. And I said, David, and David is he's a psychoanalyst. He's a psychologist by training. And I love and adore him. And I said, oh my God, you are saying what I've been feeling in my bones for days, struggling with, something of my own. And I said, you're saying it's like, because I had been thinking of it as Shakespeare in Love, that movie where he says, in the theater, it was so, I can't remember how it goes, but it was so cute because he was like, if everything's not okay, then it's not the end. And whichever one of these things you hear, remember that it's all going to be okay. It is all okay. Right now, inside of you, it's all okay. No matter what you're going through. And trust me, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, but it's okay. And if it's easier to say it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. Or at the end of the day, everything makes sense, and just relaxing into it. That's the one thing I would just love to leave people with, so they can be reminded of it. It's okay.
What a beautiful reminder. And I love that both of your books have new audio versions that are out. So if you love to consume your books through audio, not only can you go get the audio versions now, but you get a real treat. The author herself is narrating.
Hey, thank you. I'm so excited about these books. Thank you, Carole Jean.
I am too. They are powerful. They are life-changing. And just the exercises, the insightful shifts in perspective have been such a blessing in my life. So guys, I'm so thrilled to share another episode with Cortney to all of you today, because when we're choosing our work and our path in life and the things that we're creating and being every day, we make a difference in so many lives and it ripples out. And when we start within, it truly is the place of leadership. Take care. As we wrap up this episode of Beyond Chronic Burnout, I want to remind you of your incredible brilliance. Embrace your uniqueness and know that your journey is one of strength and compassionate curiosity. I'm Carole Jean Whittington, and I'm so honored to be on this journey with you. Stay connected with me on LinkedIn. And for more energizing episodes, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube at Beyond Chronic Burnout. Let's continue thriving together, my friend. Remember, you have the power to break free from burnout and unleash your authentic self. Until our next engaging conversation, take care and keep shining brightly.
Thanks for being here. It's been quite a ride. Energy mastery, let's turn the tide. Top shelf guests, dropping wisdom bombs. Join us next week, where the energy's strong. Beyond chronic burnout.